Miles Davis on Excessive Celebration. Or it's Billy and Scotty. By the way, where's your boy Dash?
He might be on vacation this week.
Is he?
He might be.
Is he and Lance up in Aspen doing their thing, or hanging out on beach, or
Yeah, they're probably.
they go to Tibet or something?
I hear they like to peruse gift shops. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's actually the hidden verse to Margaritaville. The last verse that
Perusing our way through gift shops.
old men in tank tops cruising the gift shops. Yeah, checking out Chiquitas down by the shore. They dream about weight loss, wish they could be their own boss. Yeah. Now, I don't relate to any of that. You know, I'm not my own boss at home, so it's sure not going to happen at work.
The only thing better is if you were to take that top shirt off and you had a tank top underneath.
No, but I am sporting orange and black for two reasons. One, come on, OSU Cowboys.
Halloween.
But two, and I hope all my fellow alumni from the Putnam City West Patriots, proud Putnam City West Patriots, will not hold it against me that I'm also wearing the colors of the Putnam City Pirates. Mm-hmm. Bill. Dun, 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 dun. Want to talk a little baseball?
Baseball.
Because, last week I told you I'd gone into deep, dark depression. It's still there. We went from 16 and a half out, we being God's team, the Red Sox, to 16 out. So, if the season lasts another 235 games, we've got
You'll be right in it.
So, Bill, what do you think?
So what? You've got Chris Sale, who is now trying to fix whatever is going wrong with him. You would have thought with the lineup they've got just alone, I mean, Bradley, Bogaerts, Martinez, this lineup is strong enough to compete with anybody. I think the biggest thing with the Red Sox is not making a move, and I said it last show, bolster your pitching staff. They did nothing.
No, they sat by.
Absolutely nothing. I think this is the learning thing, or the learning curve that most teams will take into effect now, is we have to do something because you're not going to be able to get those players after the trade deadline. You're going to have to make a move, and if that means I've got to give up my number one prospect to win now, then I've got to give up my number one prospect to win now.
Well, yeah. Again, when you talk the American League, it's hard for me to get excited about anybody besides the Yankees and Houston. However, I had mentioned the Athletics last week, and they're still 7.5 back in terms of catching Houston. That's not going to happen. But they're now sitting within striking distance of both Tampa Bay and Cleveland for a wild card spot. And Oakland doesn't do anything terribly great, but they don't have any just glaring deficiencies either. Tell me, besides the Yankees and Houston, Bill, who do you see at least causing anybody some problems in the American League as we get, what are we, about 31 or 2 games to go?
It feels like forever in baseball. But like I've said before, Tampa Bay, if they've got to play anybody, they could give somebody some trouble. I don't know that any of these teams scare you tremendously. If Minnesota can get everything corrected, they could scare some teams. As far as could they really push the Yankees, I think that may be the one team outside of Houston or outside of the Yankees that could push Houston would be Minnesota, just because of their ability to hit the long ball, and they do have an ace. These other teams are just filler at this point. I mean, Indians, with the moves they made, it could have got scary, and especially if Puig or Reyes get hot, it could be scary. But I think it's kind of over for these teams, and I don't think anybody wants to say it, and because you want the ratings and you want everything like that. But Houston's a juggernaut right now, and until next season, and if they lose some pieces, they're going to continue to be a juggernaut, and the Yankees, until they can figure out a pitching staff and keep everybody, or until they're willing to pay more, which is weird to say about the Yankees, they're going to struggle, and they're going to get kicked out of probably the second, third round of the playoffs. It's just how it's going to be with the Yankees.
Yeah, it's I was picking on Detroit last week and asked you, what kind of promotions do you do when you're further out than there are games left, and there's still over more than a month to go in the season.
Yeah.
But gosh, Baltimore's 43 games out.
Well, and Baltimore's been playing a little bit better. They've been outside of the series with the Yankees. Like, if they don't play the Yankees, Baltimore seems to play a little bit harder for some reason. But
boy, that Yankees-Cleveland series was kind of volatile.
Yeah.
At what point does Boone become a distraction for his team? I mean, that you can only fight for your boys so many times before it starts looking a little contrived, or he's crazy.
Well, I believe it both ways. Him and Brett Gardner need to get over themselves just a little bit and calm it, rein it back in, because this is every time you tune into TV, it's Brett Boone went down in the third round, and Aaron Boone went down in the third round, and Yasiel Puig's going crazy, and everybody needs to rein it in. You're playing a baseball game, right? Where if you were thinking tempers were going to flare, it's going to be at a 10-year-old game or something, right?
Not where it matters.
Yeah, not at a 20 to 40-year-old guy getting paid millions of dollars to play baseball.
No, the fur is going to fly at DeLacy Park. That's where it matters.
It's amazing and I can kind of understand some situations, right? So you get overly amped up, but when it's this consistent with one particular team or even one particular individual, something has to be done. There has to be a precedent set where, you know what, Brett Gardner, complain about umping one more time, right? See how much you get fined. See how many days you get suspended.
Right.
The whole suspension thing is messed up anyway, especially with pitchers. I suspend you for 14 games. Well, guess what? Games you don't pitch, that counts as a game. Like, that's ridiculous. No, it should be 14 games. If it's 14 games, guess what? Those games you pitch in those 14 games, you're out.
Right.
So you're out for 2 to 3 months.
Well, it's how stupid it is when they start the playoffs and suspend somebody for 3 games and they're the 4th starter, or 2 games and they're the 3rd starter. Bill, the National League's interesting because Atlanta continues to play very well. They've suffered some injuries. The Nationals are still relatively valid. And then you've got the Central, which just continues to just be a dogfight. And I'm going to be really sad if the Cardinals come out on top of that. And it's looking more and more like they might.
And the Cardinals are weird. So a lot of good veteran pitching. And they've always had that, whether it have been Chris Carpenter, now with Waka. I mean, they've always had really good veteran pitching. And then they'll have 1 or 2 guys that they've kind of brought up that can pitch really well, too. They don't, outside of Goldsmith in that lineup, I don't know anybody in that lineup that scares me. I think Yachty's lost it. He's not even close to what he was with the bat. I don't know what happened with Dexter Fowler. Dexter Fowler with the Cubs was on fire and a guy that was tough to get out. Now Dexter Fowler with the Cardinals seems like a completely different player. They let go of Tony Pham, and he has thrived on his new team, but the Cardinals, they're tough to figure out. And what's funny is, so when the Cardinals had Jason Hayward was okay, but then he went to the Cubs, and now he thrives with the Cubs. It's really weird how baseball and baseball players work out in different markets or different teams.
Kind of sounds like the Thunder. Bring guys in, they leave.
And they thrive outside of the Thunder.
Superstar.
Right?
Yeah.
But they could, with the pitching they have, it could be interesting, but I just don't see the Cardinals being able to keep up with anybody.
Yeah, and then the Mets started sliding again after we bragged on them a little bit. Now they're 9 out.
So now we'll throw them under the bus, and they'll go on a 10-game win streak.
Yeah.
And that's the other team that's weird. So, right, you've got probably 4 legitimate aces that should be starting at number 1, number 2 for most teams. The hitting, which granted they've had some injuries, the hitting has been suspect. Outside of Alonso, the rookie that's probably going to win your Rookie of the Year, Conforto's been there forever, and he's been probably their most solid guys. This team really reminds me of the Colorado Rockies back in the day outside the pitching staff.
Like when Walker was there?
That Walker, but you have a guy, Walker, Bichette, and then like Todd Helton, right? Yeah. Todd Helton was the glue guy, the guy that would hit everything, not for power really, but just hit everything and get on base.
He was kind of a Pedroia
right,
kind of a guy.
And so I think they've got some solid pieces, and they can, and if they can get to the playoffs, they can be scary just because of who they're throwing out there. But again, it's hitting with this team. And I know I've said before we thought it was going to rely on pitching, but when you really break it down and go into playoff time, if you do have the pitchers, so Syndergaard, Stroman, Wheeler, DeGrom, then what does the hitting do at that point? Because if I'm playing, we'll say Washington, for example, well, they can throw out Strasburg and Scherzer.
Right.
So that kind of negates the pitching at some point.
Scherzer's your mystery man, right?
The mystery man with 2 different eyes.
Spitzdog. All right, Bill, and then the extremely dramatic National League West, where the Dodgers are up 18.5 games on the Giants, 19.5 on Arizona, 22.5 on San Diego, and 24 on the Rockies.
Yeah, how about all the money that San Diego spent this year and bringing in Machado and some other guys that full struggle mode in San Diego? And
it got to be tough to be a pro sports fan in San Diego these days, isn't it?
Yeah, the expectations before the season every year is super, super high, and especially this year with Padres baseball, nothing to show for it.
No, and you got to drive to L.A. to watch the Chargers play.
Yeah. So, and that's the drive to L.A. to watch Phillip Rivers play, which can be tough at times.
Yeah, it's like, okay, if we turn left, we can see our old team play. If we turn right, we can see, okay, we're turning right. Let's go watch the Rams.
At this point, as far as the Dodgers are concerned, it's not getting complacent and getting better. Not wearing out Walker Buehler, not wearing out, or just sharpening, I should say, of Kershaw. Finding Rich Hill again if you can.
Yeah, Bill, they're 8 games up on Atlanta in terms of having home field advantage. So, to me, I'm believing what you're saying, because let's get those guys some rest.
Yeah.
At what point do you do that, and at what point do you go, okay, it's 4 games? And
yeah, I think the Dodgers have the luxury, especially in their lineup, that most teams don't have. Well, outside of probably Houston, and Houston's been doing it a little bit more recently, is you can take Bellinger and set him a night because you still have Max Muncy in that lineup. You can take Muncy and set him a night because you still have Corey Seager.
Okay.
Like, there are guys.
They got enough. They got enough pitches. There's enough pitches to be thrown.
Right. There's enough guys in that lineup that should be able to stem some wins for you, to where you have the number 1 seed. I mean,
let me ask you.
It shouldn't be. I've got to set my whole lineup because we're playing the Reds, or we're playing. They can stem the tide.
Let me ask you this, Bill. If that's your plan, and it makes sense to have that plan, how important is your closer then? Because you're most likely at putting a little bit more of a challenge on him than you normally would. Or, how do they look for that? Because I think you're right. I think all they want to do is come out with home field advantage here.
The toughest deal with closers is understanding their mindset. So you take like Aroldis Chapman, right? You put him in big games where it's a 1-score game and he's got to come in and close it out. He's geared in and he's locked in and he's going to pitch like Aroldis Chapman should pitch. But you put him in games where it's a 3-run lead and he'll give up to because he doesn't have that mindset to just go out there and close it like that. And he's self-admitted this. So
kind of like a Mike Leach offense that has a lead and can't figure out how to sit on the ball and just manage the end of the game because that's not who they are.
Right, or play at 100% to grow that lead. Right. And so with Jansen, and especially this year more so with Jansen, it seems like he's struggled a lot more. And I know they were trying to go out and find some bullpen guys to kind of set up or maybe even give him a break from having to close. With Jansen, it's just figuring him out. It's kind of the same thing with Rich Hill, is sharpen that iron and figure that out, because you're going to need both of those guys when playoff time comes around, and especially Jansen more so than probably even Rich Hill, just because you need somebody to close ball games. You know what? If I'm the head coach and I'm throwing Jansen out there in the first playoff game and he struggles, regardless if they win or not, I might look to change things up and maybe bring him in as a setup man the next time, just to get him. Maybe it's pressure that he's not like.
Yeah, so you put him in there in a little bit less tense situation, let him work out whatever arm issues he may have.
And I don't know what it is with
Jansen, or whatever.
Or maybe hitters have finally caught up to him. I don't know what it is with Jansen, but something's different about him this year and could be the downfall of the Dodgers if it ever comes playoff time.
I still am struggling to see how anybody beats Houston. But I thought that last year, and who was that? The Red Sox? I think it was. Well, Bill, you've enlightened us once again. By the way, I just want you to know that my grandson is unbelievably impressed with your prowess in terms of baseball knowledge. And I said, just wait till we start talking about thumping that hardwood and what he's going to talk about.
Well, you'll be excited for our whittling segment up next.
All right. Stick around.
Crossover Radio accepts a celebration. Get that app.